Something extremely strange happened in space recently. And when I say strange, I do not mean the usual cosmic weirdness, like galaxies smashing into each other or asteroids doing gymnastics around the sun. I mean strange enough to make scientists stare at their screens and rethink their entire life choices. This is the kind of weird that makes even the bravest astronomer want to turn off the lights, close the observatory, and take a long break somewhere with good coffee and no stars. It all began with a star. Not a normal star. This one was huge. If the sun were the size of a ball, this star would be the size of a house. A big house. The kind of house people look at and say, that is out of my budget. And yet, one day, this star simply disappeared. Yes, disappeared, not exploded, not collapsed, not dimmed slowly, just gone. Imagine walking into your living room and realizing your couch is gone. Not moved, not sold, not stolen, gone. The spot looks too clean, like someone used the universe's delete button. That is exactly how astronomers felt. The star had a complicated scientific name, because scientists love long names, but most people called it WITY. Because the first team that observed it literally said, "What is this?" and the name stuck. If experts are naming things out of confusion, you know the universe did something dramatic. At first, everyone blamed the telescope. That is always step one in science. Something weird happens? Must be the equipment. The poor machine gets blamed for everything. So a group of scientists spent hours checking cables, screens, sensors, lenses, and probably even their own glasses. One person even tapped the machine like it was a TV from the 90s. But everything was fine. Next idea. Maybe a dust cloud blocked the star. Dust clouds in space are huge and sometimes get in the way. But even the thickest cloud cannot block all the light. Infrared should have shown something. A faint glow, a warm signature, anything. But no. The region was colder than your ex's heart. So the scientists stared at the data again, hoping the star would magically come back. It did not. Then they checked older images and found something even stranger. Before disappearing, the star dimmed sharply in a very unusual way. The drop was fast, deep, and sudden, like something giant passed in front of it. Something so big it blocked every last bit of light. Now imagine something big enough to block a house-sized star. What could do that? A planet? Too small. A moon? Not even close. A comet? Please. A black hole? No, black holes distort light but do not block it like a solid wall. This blackout was complete, perfect, total. Whatever moved in front of that star was massive, dark, and silent. Scientists do not like silent things. Loud things in space make sense: explosions, radiation, bursts of energy. Silence is suspicious. Silence means something strange is happening. Then came the pulse. A few weeks after the star vanished, sensors detected a faint rhythm coming from the same region. Not a radio signal, not static, just a slow, steady pulse. Almost like a heartbeat. One scientist joked, "Great, now empty space has a pulse." Another said, "I am too tired for this." A third whispered, "We need stronger coffee." But jokes did not stop the pulse. On, off, slow, calm, almost peaceful. And that made it worse. Because nothing peaceful has ever come out of deep space. Ever. The team checked everything again. Equipment, satellites, atmosphere, cosmic rays, you name it. The pulse was not an error. It was real. Then things escalated. Light around the region started bending ever so slightly. Not a dramatic bend, just a small ripple, but it was enough for every scientist in the room to sit up straight. Space does not bend for small things. Space bends for big things. So they ran calculations. They checked gravitational models. They asked the computer to measure the mass of whatever caused that ripple. The computer tried, failed, tried again, failed again. Finally, it displayed something no scientist ever wants to read. Mass exceeds measurable range. One astronomer blinked and said, "The computer gave up." That is bad, right? Another replied, "That is very bad." So the team gave the mysterious object a temporary name. The mass. Simple, cold, terrifying. The mass did not reflect light, did not glow, did not emit radiation, did not spin, did not explode. It simply moved, slowly, quietly, calmly, like a giant whale passing through dark water. One astronomer said, "At least it is not moving fast." Another replied, "Please do not jinx it." But the scariest moment came next. The mass turned, not much, just enough for sensors to capture part of its outline. A curve, smooth, enormous, too perfect to be natural. One scientist whispered, "It has a shape." Another whispered, "Do not say that out loud. Because things with shapes are usually made, and things that big should not exist." Then the pulse changed, not randomly, not by accident, but in a pattern, a rhythm, a signal, something intentional. One scientist, trying to stay calm, joked, "Maybe it is saying hello." Nobody laughed, not even him. Meanwhile, back on Earth, people lived their normal lives. Kids played, adults worked, someone burned toast, someone complained about traffic. Nobody knew that a star-eating, space-bending, pulse-emitting giant object was drifting in the galaxy like it owned the place. Inside the observatories, though, the mood changed. Scientists looked through old records and found strange dips in light from other stars in the past, dips they had ignored because they made no sense. One astronomer quietly said, "We missed things, a lot of things." The room went silent. Then, during one observation, the pulse shifted again, a small jump in tone, but enough to make several scientists drop their pencils. The mass was reacting to something, or someone, or maybe, to being observed. The next moment was the worst one yet. The outline appeared again, clearer, larger, impossible. One scientist stepped away from the screen and whispered, "No, not today." But it was too late. Everyone had seen it. The mass was not just passing by. It was following a path, a deliberate path, and at the center of that path was the star that vanished. Scientists are not silent because they want to hide the truth. They are silent because they do not know what the truth is. Something massive is out there. Something dark, something patient, something that does not behave like any known object in the universe. And the last thing anyone wants is for it to look in our direction. And the strangest detail of all was this: the mass did not behave like something lost or confused. It behaved like something with a destination. It moved with the slow confidence of a giant creature that had crossed the galaxy many times before. It did not drift randomly. It did not wobble. It did not react to gravity like normal objects. It followed its path with the kind of calm determination that made several scientists consider new career options in accounting or gardening. One astronomer joked, "At least it is not coming this way." Another said, "Why would you say that out loud?" A third added, "I am updating my resume right now." But even with humor filling the room, everyone felt the same thing: a quiet pressure in the air. The kind of pressure you feel right before something important happens. The mass was not just a scientific mystery. It was a warning, a message written in the silence of the stars. Not a message in a bottle. More like a message carved into the universe itself. The final data sets of the night showed something chilling. The star that vanished was not the first one. Not even close. There were at least 6 similar disappearances in old records from different observatories. All dismissed, all ignored, all happening along a curved line. A path, a route, a trail, and the mass was moving along that same trail. Scientists did not speak, they did not breathe, they only stared at the screen, realizing the truth. Whatever this thing was, whatever it wanted, it had been traveling for a very, very long time. And now, all they could do was watch. If the scientists thought the night was already stressful enough, they were wrong. The universe had one more surprise waiting for them, and it was the kind of surprise nobody wants. Not even astronomers, who usually get excited about weird things that would terrify the rest of us. The next day, as the team gathered around the main screen for a new observation cycle, something unexpected appeared. A new spike, a bright one, not from the missing star, of course, that one was still gone, still silent, still erased. This spike came from just beside the region where the mass had last been detected. "Please tell me that is a calibration glitch," one scientist said. "It is not," another answered. "Fantastic," the first one replied. "The universe is on a roll." The spike was not a signal, not a pulse, not a burst of radiation. It was more like a flare of reflected light, the kind of brief flash you get when something metallic catches the sun. Except there is no sun in that region. No light source bright enough to produce that type of reflection. Which means only one thing. Something had moved. Something had turned. Something had caught the light that should not even be there. The mass was still there. And now, it was shining. But not naturally. Not like a star. Not like an explosion. It was the kind of shine that only happens when light hits a surface. A large, smooth, polished surface. One scientist whispered, "This cannot be natural. Natural things are messy." Another said, "I think the universe is trying to tell us something, and I do not like the tone." The flare vanished as quickly as it came. The region went dark again. Completely dark, but now the silence felt different. Heavy, waiting, like whatever was out there knew it had been noticed. The team ran simulations all morning. None of them matched known objects. Not asteroids, not planets, not brown dwarfs, not rogue stars, not nebula fragments, not anything that should logically exist. Their only option left was uncomfortable. Maybe this thing was not an object. Not in the way they understood. Maybe it was something built. Something created. Something that did not follow the rules because the rules were never made for it. One scientist said, "We always assumed we would find life as something small. Cells, microbes, maybe tiny green creatures with big eyes. Why did we not consider something enormous?" Another replied, "Because enormous things are expensive." A third said, "Great. So we are dealing with something that ignores physics and budget limits." The silence in the room was long, heavy, the kind of silence that makes everyone question their career choices. Then the pulse returned, but this time, it was different. It was no longer slow and steady like a distant heartbeat. It had changed into a pattern, a repeating sequence, not random noise, not cosmic static, something structured. One scientist leaned forward, another squinted, a third whispered, "Please do not be a message." The pulse repeated again, and again, and again. It was definitely structured. One of the younger astronomers hesitated before saying, "It almost looks like it is counting." Another replied, "Counting what?" The first answered, "I do not know. But I am sure I do not want to find out." The scientists fed the pulse sequence into a computer to check for patterns. The result was shocking. The intervals between pulses matched the gravitational disturbances detected earlier. The mass was pulsing in rhythm with its own movement, like a whale calling out through the deep ocean. A massive, invisible, silent whale. One scientist joked, "So, space whales are real. Great. What is next? Space dolphins?" Another said, "Stop talking. The universe might hear that and get ideas." But even humor could not hide the growing fear. Because the pulses grew louder. Not loud in sound. Space has no sound, but loud in data. Stronger, clearer, more intense. It was getting closer. That was the nightmare scenario. The mass was no longer drifting away on its ancient path. The curve of its trajectory had changed slightly. Very slightly, but enough. Someone whispered, "It changed direction." Another said, "That is not possible." The first replied, "Neither is the rest of this, but here we are." The mass had turned, just a little, but it had turned, toward the region where the first detection came from, toward the line of missing stars, toward the observatories tracking it. Not fast, not aggressively, but deliberately, like something responding, like something acknowledging, like something aware. One scientist stepped back from the screen and said, "Nope. I refuse. Send me back to grad school." Another whispered, "Is it looking at us?" A third said, "I am going to pretend I did not hear that." The entire lab went silent again as the system displayed the updated mass estimation. The number was so large it had no meaning. The unit conversion broke, the secondary system froze, the backup system crashed. One scientist said, "This is fine." Another replied, "Nothing about this is fine." The mass pulsed again, on, off, but the intervals were shrinking. Not by much, but enough to make everyone uncomfortable. Then, suddenly, something new appeared. A small flicker near the lower edge of the mass's outlined region. Not enough to see clearly. Just enough to suggest movement. One scientist zoomed in, another adjusted the contrast. A third said, "Please do not show teeth. Please do not show teeth." It did not show teeth, but it showed something worse. A second object, smaller than the mass, but still impossibly large. Still dark, still silent, and it moved independently, not orbiting, not drifting, moving with intention. One scientist whispered, "There are two of them." Another said, "I want to go home." A third said, "This is my home now." This screen, this stress, the two objects were moving in sync. Not perfectly, but close enough to suggest cooperation, or communication, or coordination. And then came the shock that shook the room. The second object pulsed back. The pulse was weaker, faster, sharper, like an answer. The mass responded with a deeper pulse. Slower, heavier. The two objects were talking. Nobody spoke in the lab. Somebody dropped a pencil. Nobody picked it up. One scientist finally whispered, "We are listening to something we should not be listening to." Another said, "Maybe turn it off?" The first replied, "No. I want to keep living, thank you." The two objects continued pulsing at each other until suddenly, everything stopped. The pulses, the light bending, the flickers, everything. The region went completely quiet. Not naturally quiet, intentionally quiet, like something holding its breath, like something waiting. Then, in a single moment, every sensor triggered at once. A flare, a massive data spike, but not from the objects. From the space between them. A third signal, unknown, unclassified, unlike anything recorded in human history. One scientist whispered, "What is that?" Another said, "A warning?" A third said, "A greeting?" A fourth said, "A countdown?" Nobody knew, but one thing was clear. Whatever was happening out there was no longer just observation. We were now part of it. The flare between the two colossal objects did not fade slowly. It snapped off instantly, like someone flipping a cosmic switch. The sudden silence felt heavier than the noise ever could. Every scientist in the room leaned toward their screens, even though none of them truly wanted to see what might come next. For several long seconds, nothing happened. No pulses, no ripples, no flickers of reflected light. It was as if the universe itself paused, waiting to see what humanity would do. One scientist whispered, "Maybe that was it. Maybe the show is over." Another replied, "Do not celebrate. The universe hates optimism." And then, right at the edge of the detection zone, a faint movement appeared. Not a pulse, not a flare, just a tiny shift in the darkness, like something adjusting its position. The sensors struggled to track it, because whatever it was moved with impossible precision, smooth, deliberate, controlled. One scientist finally said what everyone feared thinking, "It knows we are here." Another added, "And it is deciding what to do about it." The mass remained still, the second object remained still, but the space between them was no longer empty. Something had awakened, and whatever comes next, humanity is not ready.